Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. The players of an old foosball table come to life and, in addition to facing mutant rats, they will need to join the humans in a soccer game against professionals to save an entire city. Today we will recap the story of the 2013 movie, Underdogs. A young man named Amadio works at a bar in a small town, who is very good at foosball and, moreover, is completely in love with Laura, a girl about the same age as him. Every day after class, Laura goes to the bar, where she cheers for Amadio while he plays, but because of his absurd skill level, nobody wants to play against him anymore, as they know they won't have the slightest chance of winning. But that changes when one day a very arrogant boy named Ezekiel appears, who along with his little group starts to tease everyone at the bar. Seeing Amadio and Laura near the table, Ezekiel decides to challenge him to a match to try to impress the girl, but afraid of getting in trouble, Amadio refuses to play against him, but he ends up giving in because of Laura, who begs him to play. But for some reason, even after accepting the challenge, Amadio just stands there watching while Ezekiel scores the first 3 goals. Realizing that he still doesn't want to play, Laura begs him to react, making him decide to finally join the game. When the ball enters the field again, Ezekiel prepares to score and kicks with all his strength towards the goal, but Amadio defends quite easily using the twin defenders, who pass the ball straight to Loco, who scores a beautiful goal, without giving Ezekiel chances to defend. On the next move, Ezekiel tries to score a point straight from the midfield, but the kick is easily saved by the goalkeeper, who throws the ball at Copy's feet, who scores another goal with such force that Ezekiel don't even have time to react. Now with 3-2 on the scoreboard, Ezekiel realizes that Amadio is just playing with him and is extremely frustrated when he is defeated again without even being able to touch the ball. With the game tied and only one more ball remaining, Amadio offers the boy the chance to stop the game and leave the score like that, but Ezekiel insists that there are no draws in this game and orders him to play the ball. In the last move, Amadio once again puts on a show and doesn't let Ezekiel play, always making passes through the air until the ball arrives at the feet of the center forward Beto, who scores a great goal, ending the match in style. Furious with the defeat, Ezekiel runs to the cashier to get more coins to play and have his revenge, but realizing that the only thing the boy wants is to cause trouble, JJ, who owns the bar, decides to throw him and his friends out. In the town square, Ezekiel is taking out all his anger at having lost on the statue of the founder, when he is interrupted by a very suspicious man, who tells the boy that he saw potential in him and that he can guarantee that he will never lose again, if agreeing to join him. A few years later, Amadio, who is now a young adult, is still addicted to table football, but over the years his difficulty in getting opponents increased more and more, until he stopped playing altogether. Even though he is already an adult, Amadio continues working at JJ's bar, until one day he is visited by Laura, who came to tell him that she will study in the capital, leaving the city for the next 5 years. Saddened by this news, Amadio tries to disguise what he feels by changing the subject to foosball, but at that moment they are interrupted by a strange sound coming from outside. When they go out to see what it's all about, Amadio and Laura find everyone gathered in the center of the city listening to the speech of that same strange man, who is now announcing the inauguration of Universal Astro Goal, an opportunity to attract tourists to the city. When asked who will pay for it, the man replies that the project is being planned and financed by a former resident, who is passionate about the city. At that moment he points to a cannon that was hidden at the top of the mountain and signals for his employees to fire. Seeing a huge soccer ball coming towards them, the inhabitants panic and start running in fear of being hit, but the man asks everyone to keep calm, as this is just part of the show. Suddenly, the soccer ball opens in midair and a man jumps out of it, performing various free-fall acrobatics. When the man opens his parachute, the stranger on stage says that the boy in the air is called Ace and that he will finance the project. At that moment, everyone in the city is impressed with Ace's triumphal entry. But when he is approaching, Amadio and Laura realize that that man is actually Ezekiel. As soon as he lands, Ace begins to rant about the future of the city. When he is confronted by one of the residents who asks if he wants to become the mayor, but Ezekiel replies that he bought the city and that's why he now owns everything, including people. Even with this rather disturbing speech, people seem to support Ace, who starts to tell all his plans for the city, until he is interrupted by Laura, who yells from the crowd that they don't need him for anything. Upon hearing this, Ace interrupts his presentation and slowly walks towards the girl to say that he has never forgotten her, much less Amadio. After saying that, Ezekiel returns to the stage and says that the works will start immediately, starting with the demolition of the bar. Desperate, Amadio runs inside and tries to stop the machines, but realizing that he won't be able to stop them, he decides to enter the place and starts evacuating people with JJ's help. With all the people safe, Amadio is trying to save some objects when he notices that the ceiling is falling right on top of the foosball table. Desperate, the boy runs to the table to try to save it, but he can't do anything and just watches as the object is hit by pieces of the ceiling. To save his precious table, Amadio uses all his strength to drag it out, but is stopped by Ace, who appears behind him saying he wants a rematch. Even before Amadio responds, a crane's claw emerges from the hole in the ceiling and begins to lift the boy along with the table, but with the weight, the steel bar Amadio is holding breaks and he falls to the floor along with Cappy. While Amadio is almost taken by the crane, Ace leaves the collapsing bar and starts walking towards the helicopter, while Laura runs after him to convince him to stop the destruction, but he ignores her and orders her manager to take the table home. Determined to change his mind, Laura gets into the helicopter and continues to try to convince Ace to give up on the idea. But he doesn't listen and starts flying home, while Amadio screams desperately for her to come back. After having the bar destroyed and not knowing if one day he will see the woman he loves again, Amadio sits beside the founder's statue and starts crying until one of the tears falls on Cappy's face, giving life to the little player. As soon as he gains consciousness, Cappy frees himself from the piece of bar that was stuck and tries to get Amadeo's attention while he can barely stand up, but even with difficulties he manages to climb his leg and get the attention of the boy, who faints as soon as he sees. When he regains consciousness, Amadio becomes depressed again and thinks about the possibility that this is all a nightmare, but Cappy manages to convince him that if he finds the rest of the team, they can help him get Laura back. Thinking about where the other players might have been taken, Amadio comes to the conclusion that the garbage dump is the most likely place, and that's exactly where they're headed. After walking for some time, Amadio and Cappy arrive at a huge dump and start looking for the rest of the team. Not far from there, Loco comes out of the middle of a mountain of garbage and is soon surprised by a mutated rat that uses its tail to grab him by the arm and drag him along the dump along with Beto. After surfing through almost the entire dumpster with the rodent, Loco and Beto jump in the middle of the garbage and go flying without direction until they hit Amadeo's neck, making him faint and knocking Cappy, who was on his shoulder. As soon as he sees Loco and Beto, Cappy is happy that his friends are okay and helps them to loosen up, but it doesn't take long for him and Beto to get into an argument about who is the team's top scorer, but they are soon interrupted by the captain of the team without stripes. When they see a player from the rival team, the trio of attackers starts to provoke him, but they are surrounded by an army of rats and they have to run to try to take shelter in a dollhouse, but Beto is captured by the rodents that take him away. Believing he's gone forever, Cappy starts crying because he'll never see him again, but it doesn't take long for Bob to reappear riding a rat. With this new mount, the four players go to one of the mountains of garbage and with a makeshift binoculars they can see that Amadio is hiding very close to the table, but they can also see that Ace's manager is also there looking for the table. To prevent the players from being taken away, Amadio steals a backhoe and starts driving towards him to scare him away, and oddly enough, this ends up working. Now with the path clear, Amadio and the players walk towards the table, but realize that it was taken by an old man who placed the object inside a van. To try to rescue them, Bob asks his companions to get off the rat and runs alone to the vehicle, but he ends up jumping on the van's hubcap and gets stuck, spinning madly several times. After a while of spinning, Beto manages to free himself from the wheel, but ends up getting his legs stuck in the exhaust and, to his misfortune, the van passes over a rock just at that moment. With the hit, Beto loses his balance, but as his leg is practically welded to the exhaust, he gets stuck while his hair is dragged against the asphalt, but thanks to that, Amadio and the others have a trail of hair to follow. After a while following the tracks, Amadio arrives at an amusement park where he finds Beto totally disappointed for having lost his hair, but as they cannot waste time, they send Beto to look for a wig while they separate to continue looking for the other players. As soon as he leaves the group, Amadio sees that all the midfielders are about to get shot at a shooting tent. He then jumps on top of the boy to save them. Finally, he grabs the steel bar where the dolls are attached and runs through the park while being chased by the security team. Not far away, Cappy is running around the place when he sees one of the twins stuck at the end of what appears to be a roller coaster. To save his friend, Cappy runs up to him to ask about the other twin, but before he even has a chance to answer, the cart is activated and starts to climb at full speed, revealing that the other twin is welded right on top of the ride. To try to free them, Cappy holds the hand of one of the brothers, while asking the other to hold his legs, and in this way, when the cart goes down, the three are hanging on top of the toy. At the top of the roller coaster, the two who are free manage to release the remaining twin, but this was a bad decision. It turns out that this player was not welded, but replacing a bolt, that is, now the structure is completely loose and starts to fall apart, but luckily they managed to reach the ground safely along with the cart. Finally on safe ground, Loco, Cappy, and the twins find the table where the other players are, but before they even have a chance to release them, Ace's manager appears, unscrews the players that were still trapped, and places them on a box. In the forest outside the park, Cappy meets with Amadio and the others and tells about the fact that the other team was taken, but Amadio refuses to accept this and runs to the businessman's car, stealing the box they are in. But before they can celebrate, they have to save Laura. For this, Amadio puts the players back in the box and impersonates the businessman's driver to infiltrate Ace's mansion. As soon as they arrive, the businessman hands the box with the players to the man who immediately takes Laura to his lab. In this place, he shows several bizarre experiments that he is developing and says that he will now start another one. For this, he places the players together from a pair of cleats on a mat to crush them and make a new type of footwear. Desperate for their lives, the players get out of the box and try to escape from the treadmill while Laura is attacked by Ace, but at that moment Amadio arrives at the laboratory and jumps from the second floor right on top of Ezekiel, but he has no chance against an athlete and is easily immobilized. Realizing that Ace is willing to eliminate Amadio, Laura runs to try to help him, but she is pushed away and falls right on top of the laboratory controls, thus releasing some bizarre creatures that look like ostriches, but with cleats on their beaks. While the mutated ostriches destroy the entire laboratory and free other creatures, the players jump on the top of the treadmill and use their bodies to form a kind of rope for the others to climb, but when the last one is climbing, Cappy's hands slip and he falls into the shredder along with the team captain without stripes. As Amadio and Laura escape from the laboratory, the two captains run through the crusher roller to try to save themselves, and end up being rescued by the other players who once again use their bodies as rope. However, to their misfortune, as they are leaving the laboratory, a bolt falls from the head of one of the players and hits the crusher, causing some sparks that come into contact with flammable gas and blow up the entire laboratory. Because of the explosion, the police are called and arrest Amadio and Laura, who are accused of having blown up a C4. While they are in the car, the press is called in to interview Ace, making him even more famous. Furious, realizing that even after all, Ace will still be a victim, Amadio gets out of the police car and, even handcuffed, goes to the crowd to challenge him to a rematch. The man responds by saying he has no interest in children's games and challenges him to a real soccer game. At that moment, Laura also runs to the crowd and says that they accept the challenge, but that if they win, Ace must return the city and never set foot in it again. With the day of the big match announced, Ace's team removes the statue of the founder and starts building the stadium right in the center of the city. Still without a team to play, Amadio goes door to door inviting the residents to be part of the team, but as soon as they discover that it is to play against Ace, most citizens refuse to participate, forcing Amadio to assemble a team that is practically seniors. With the two teams defined, the day of the big match finally arrives and both teams enter the field. As soon as the match starts, the striped shirt team exchanges a few passes, until Amadio takes the ball and confidently runs to the attack, however he loses the ball to the first opponent that appears. Now in possession of the ball, the team of professionals exchanges passes much more efficiently, until the right winger makes a cross to the penalty area and Ezekiel scores with a header while the goalkeeper is just watching. With 1-0 on the scoreboard in less than a minute of play, Amadio rolls the ball once more and passes it to JJ, who takes a legendary kick, causing the ball to explode an airship in midair. When they find another ball, the side of the striped team makes a long pass to Amadio, but Ace intercepts the ball, dribbles all the players and makes a beautiful shot towards the goal, but instead of trying to defend, the goalkeeper just decides ignore the ball and turn to ask the referee for the time. With 2 goals in less than 5 minutes of play, the spectators realize that the home team has no chance of winning and stop watching the game. To prevent the audience from dropping, the manager communicates with Ace on the radio and asks him not to score any more goals until the second half to make things more interesting and thus get the public's attention, but that doesn't stop the team from being humiliated by the professionals in the remaining 40 minutes. As the second half begins, Cappy realizes that Amadeo's team will continue to be humiliated and decide it's time to act. He then summons all the players and together they run to the middle of the field. Now with the foosball players in scene, the home team can finally react, making several beautiful defenses and disrupting all the attacks of the professional team. Furious that his team was not getting an easy victory, Ace starts to play more and more dirty and ends up scoring a dangerous foul on an opponent. When it's time for Amadio to take the free kick, everyone takes position and waits for the kick. But without anyone noticing, Loco climbs on the crossbar and jumps on the back of the opposing goalkeeper, who with the fright ends up letting the ball pass, marking the home team's first goal. Now the score is 2-1. At the exit of the ball, Ace passes to another player, but as they are impatient for his attitudes, the professional players refuse to touch the ball and leave Amadeo's team in possession. With the help of Cappy and the others, the home team manages to make a beautiful exchange of passes and leave Amadio free in front of the goal, but suddenly Ace appears behind him and makes another serious fault, knocking him down right in front of Cappy. As soon as Amadio opens his eyes, the little player tells him to just kick towards the goal and the others will take care of the rest, but Amadio refuses, saying he wants a fair win. Understanding Amadeo's feelings, Cappy leaves the field with his team and leaves the rest of the match with the home team. Now alone once again, Amadeo's team begins another exchange of passes through the opponent's field, until Gattuno crosses into the small area, but for some reason, everyone in the defense misses the ball and the one who hits is the Emo, who makes a header that would make any professional player jealous. With the score tied at 2-2 and with 2 minutes left to play, everyone is very excited about the game, with the exception of Ace. Now that they have some hope of winning, the home team goes all or nothing and Amadio makes a beautiful kick, but the ball hits the crossbar and returns to the area. While everyone is waiting for the ball to fall, Ace sees that the referee is looking up and steps on Amadeo's leg, almost breaking it in half, but instead of stopping the game, the damn referee orders the match to continue. As they expected it to be a penalty, all the players forgot the ball and left their positions, with the exception of Ace, who dominates and runs free to the opponent's goal. Deciding to win the match, Amadio gets up and, even hurted, runs after Ace, who is distracted by the crowd, but as soon as he realizes that Amadio will reach him, he accelerates and makes a last kick that makes the ball roll slowly to the goal. With that, the score changes to 3-2 and the referee ends the game, officializing the victory of the professional team, but instead of screaming, the crowd is in complete silence, as they watch Ace celebrate the victory alone. Not understanding why people are against him, Ace starts yelling at the crowd until his manager shows up to resign and says that now everyone knows who he really is, and that's why no one respects him anymore. At that moment, Laura runs to Amadio, who is lying on the lawn, and, along with the rest of the team, they leave the field while being applauded by the entire audience. In the end, the home team lost and that's why the city remains Aces, but the citizens refuse to live in this situation and decide to move, founding a new municipality completely from scratch.